Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Mystical Misfits. I'm Rochelle.
And I'm Carla. And today we're continuing our Tower of Babel mini-series.
So, if you've been following along, in our last episode, we talked about social media, media in general, and how it can actually disrupt connection instead of creating it.
Yeah, how it fragments communication, pulls us out of the collective, and kind of adds to that modern version of the Tower of Babel we're all living in.
You know? And today, we're taking that conversation a step further.
We're talking about neurodivergence, what it really means, how it shows up in communication, and how differences in the way our minds work may have always played a role in how humans connect or disconnect.
So, if you've ever felt misunderstood, misjudged, or like you're speaking a different language altogether,
This episode is for you. All right, let's get into it.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Dum, dum,
So,
dum. I think I got to do that like every episode.
yeah, why not? It sets the tone. Like, ooh, what are they gonna say today? Um,
Yes.
so I would like to offer like a little bit of a general disclaimer before we begin is that this conversation that we're having is not about diagnosing anyone or making scientific claims or asking you to believe anything specific. We're living shared experience, observation and reflection through the lens of psychology, neurodivergence, spirituality, and shadow work. So some of what we discuss does live in science, but some lives in personal insight, and some lives some lives in questions that don't always have clear answers, and that's okay. So our intention is awareness, compassion, and curiosity, not labels or excuses. So if at any point something doesn't resonate, you're invited to simply let it pass, because this is a conversation, not a conclusion.
And not any kind of diagnosis, like you said. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think
we're
sometimes
not even, we're not certified for any such thing. We're just two middle aged sisters.
yeah, and we have opinions and we feed off of each other when it comes to conversation. Rochelle and
Because
I
we're
will.
neurodivergent. We have
Yeah,
our own language.
yeah, absolutely. And something will happen, and there's like a light bulb that says, "Ooh," and we go down that tunnel that is being lit up, so to speak.
Right
Um,
on.
so yeah, we're talking about neurodivergence, and this is also a continuation of the Tower of Babel series. So it's like, how does that relate? How does neurodivergence relate to communication? Again, we're not diagnosing, we're not making excuses, we're not dismissing science either, because that's the biggest thing. That is, I think there's a crossover, and we're going to get into it, of the woo woo side of what neurodivergence can look like, right? And also the misinterpretation that we see um online on social media, when especially when we can't see someone's face and we're just reading text.
Oh, yeah, because the way that we read the text is in our own biases. It doesn't necessarily mean it's in how the other party intended it to come out. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, yeah.
And it can be a like, if we're talking about the Tower of Babel, a communication breakdown. So it's not just language, but it's how we perceive and
Mhm.
interpret each other. So we're inviting you today to listen with curiosity, not certainty of what we're saying. Just
Yeah. An
entertain us.
open heart and an open mind. Just, yeah, be open to hearing it, right?
Yes. I am very much interested in this topic, because of my own studies and looking into things. Actually, Rochelle, you had mentioned that you thought it would be a good idea that if I do start a Patreon, that maybe these would be the topics that I touch on.
Listen, anybody, in my opinion, I think that understanding the way that your mind processes, the way that your emotions process is all part of knowing thyself. It's all part of our shadow work. So it's
Yes.
extremely important, even in our spirituality and even in our mundane life, although I don't see a difference, but some people do. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's highly important, you know?
And if we look at what like there's a big umbrella. So when we talk about neurodivergence, there is a big umbrella that a lot of things fall under. And briefly naming that is autism or ASD, ADHD, which, just to clarify, there is no diagnosis of anything like ADD anymore. It's just all kind of grouped under ADHD. Yeah. So there's also dyslexia, uh, dysgraphia. Some of these names are even hard to pronounce. Dyscalculia, dyspraxia, sensory processing disorder, OCD, bipolar disorder, anxiety and PTSD, and most of these things are undiagnosed in adults, I think.
Yeah.
Uh, Neurodivergence doesn't look just one way. That's the biggest thing. And it often shows up clearly in communication styles. And
So let me just stop you just for a second.
yes,
I don't want to self diagnose. However, I do think some of these things, um, when I look at even some of them and some of these that are on this list, I have no clue about. I've never heard about because I've
yep,
not researched it, right? But
right, right.
like the dyslexia,
Yes,
I am pretty sure that that is something that I have dealt with my entire life. From the time that I was a little kid in school, they put me into a special reading class because I would read too fast and read over important things. So they had to teach me how to slow down. And still to this day, it affects me because when I read a book or something is sent to me for review, I literally have to read it 3 times, each part of it 3 times because I skip over stuff.
yes.
Right? Or
Oh,
something
yes.
takes me out of where I can't concentrate. That's why Audible books work so much better for me because I don't have to. I'm hearing it. And many times I've also said that for me, I have had to read out loud to myself because then I'm not only reading it, I'm hearing it and I am speaking it. So I learn quicker that way. I wonder if that's also part of like autism or dyslexia.
Listen, you can still see me and hear me okay, right? Or at least my little avatar there.
Yes.
Okay, so I actually looked up a brief AI overview on dyslexia.
Okay.
And this is what my Google says: it's a common, lifelong biological learning disability, primarily affecting reading, spelling, and writing due to difficulties processing language sounds or phonological deficits. So it stems from brain differences, not low intelligence, impacting how the brain connects letters to sounds, leading to slow word recognition, poor spelling, decoding struggles, and potential comprehension issues through specific challenges. And they can vary. And it can improve with targeted instruction. So the core characteristics, it's a specific learning disability related to language, not vision or general intelligence. So it is processing, I think.
Maybe I have low level then because I can tell you I've usually my whole life I used to win spelling bees. I'm good at spelling for the
Yes.
most part. although my language might be limited, you know what I mean? Because I didn't have college level anything like that. Um,
Right.
I do always, and I still do. I don't know why. I like turn my eyes and my e's around all the time, and sometimes with my numbers, I see those backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm actually pretty good at math, and the times that I have messed up on tests that I thought I did really good, it was because I inverted numbers. So, and I would say, how in the hell? Because I seen it differently. It's like my eyes betrayed me.
Right. But think about this. Okay. So when you're reading something, the eyes might be reading it, but you're still processing as you're looking at it. Right.
Yes.
So the brain is still overlooking things, not because of what you're seeing on the paper. It's overlooking, and same with if you're listening, you're processing. So there's something in the processing. It says it's neurological, that it's a difference in brain structure and function, and often with a genetic link. So it could be like it might show up even with trouble with sounding out words, because again, it's like a circle. You see the words, your brain is taking it in, but then the brain has to process it through your mouth also. So it's still all coming back to processing and language. So you're still taking it in and processing, it's coming out of your mouth. So there's a big, and sometimes there might be a delay on that, not because of uh like it's almost like in real time, right? And it's so weird that it even comes back to time, because we talked about this.
Yeah.
But if you're not capable of slowing it down at the moment, everything is happening very, very fast, right?
Yeah. That's where
Um,
I think knowing myself has come into play, because
oh yeah.
that's where bringing order to the chaos that I feel in my mind. And I've said this
Mhm.
from the very beginning. I always feel chaos in my mind. And it's the structures that I cling to that actually help me keep things in order. That's know thyself, right? Know
Yes.
how you work.
Yes.
So yeah.
I did look, it says common signs and challenges that show up in the early years is difficulty learning to speak, rhyming, or learning letter names and sounds. Reading would be slow and accurate reading, missing words, guessing based on context, and difficulty with sight words. That you had. I remember that.
Yeah, but I didn't read slow. I've never read slow. I read pretty fast.
Right, but the missing words and the guessing on the base of the context. So in other words,
Yes,
you're
the
still
big, huge assumption.
everything
But
was
here's
still
another
going
thing
by
that happens.
fast for you. Everything was still, your intake of knowledge was still very, very fast.
It is. I feel more comfortable when I'm taking in several different things because I get bored with just one topic.
Yes.
So I learn better in like clusters. And I know that sounds weird, right? But
Hmm.
is that also ADD or attention?
Yes, that's what I
I
was.
don't know.
I was just going to say that, sis. So it's like they are finding that, okay, so like sometimes dyslexia is, it coincides, or it's also linked with ADHD. It's like they go hand in hand. But you can be dyslexic without having ADHD, but most people that have ADHD will also have dyslexia,
Right.
some level of it. So that's the whole thing. That's why these disorders stand on their own, or they're diagnosed as a disorder. They stand on their own, but they also go with, like ADHD. Um, like someone who is autistic can be ADHD, but ADHD stands on its own. You see what
Right.
a lot of these things go hand in hand, and we'll find that out as we go too. It's like, oh, okay, so if you're autistic, more than likely you might have all these other things, and that's why usually when they talk about the umbrella, autism is at the top of it.
I think this series, honestly, as it progresses,
Mm-hmm.
it's so important. I think we should probably take like maybe two different kinds of diagnoses and just talk about like the symptoms that you'll see in early childhood and like
Yes.
future episodes is what I mean, and actually
Yeah.
get down and dirty with these, not as a diagnosis, but just as like really talking about these things and recognizing them in our own patterns. Now, just like when someone says that you're a narcissist, and we know that
Mhm.
that term is so widely used, right?
Right. Mhm.
So what if but somebody might have like those symptoms of being, or not symptoms, but they might show certain characteristics of being a narcissist, but not actually be a narcissist. Could it be the same way with like ADHD or
Yes.
OCD or anything like
Yes.
that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a big there's a big crossover. And those are fairly recent studies, I think, that show narcissism, um or let me rephrase that. Autism looks like narcissism
Okay.
until you understand it. So, and that, I think we do that. That's a disruptor. I think in the Tower of Babel, we automatically assume that someone's behavior
Mm-hmm.
is it's
Nefarious.
narcissism, or it's, yeah,
Yes. Yes.
exactly. Um I think I put that in the notes, what certain things might look like and how it gets misinterpreted.
Okay. This series is probably going to go on, guys, just because these are important topics and there's so much to discuss. So I won't keep on going, sissy.
Well, I was just thinking that what I can do is put in the description some resources that might give you the opportunity to take a test, and so that
Okay.
as we go through these, that you might maybe notice these things in your own behavior, because again, we're not diagnosing, we're just
Right.
bringing awareness.
Right.
Because when we are listening to each other, if somebody comes off blunt, we might think that's rude. If
Right.
if someone is silent, we might take that as disinterest. If someone is over explaining, we might take that as manipulation. Dumping could be misconstrued as ego. Um, so we notice social media tends to reward neurotypical behavior. So, our pacing, are we consistent? Do we have that polished delivery? So that's another reason that a lot of us use some type of,
AI.
yes.
Yes, absolutely.
It doesn't mean that our thoughts are different. It's helping to communicate in a way that is more digestible.
Listen, I am so bad with even finishing my sentences. We talked about this earlier. I am the kind of person when I am talking with somebody that I'm so connected with, and you don't notice it as much because the other party knows you so well that they pick up on the conversation too, like yourself, or like my husband, or like my
Mhm.
friends, right? But it is a true thing where I don't finish because in my mind I have finished it, but my mouth hasn't finished speaking what my whole thought was.
Yeah, absolutely. And because we
So,
know each other that well, and there's so much more to that, though, um, that I
but
think.
that's why AI actually helps me. I will go through really quick
Mhm.
just to finish what I was saying here
Yeah.
and just put into like my AI exactly what I am feeling and saying, can you put this into something cohesive where I don't
Yes.
sound like a babbling fucking idiot? You know what I
Ab
mean?
yes,
And it
yes.
does. It helps me to be able to communicate more articulately. If that's even a word, that's probably more articulate.
Well, you said it, "You know what I mean?" And I'm
You
like,
know what I mean?
"Yes." And you're like, "You know what I mean?" I'm like, "Yeah." We could have a whole conversation with that, you know what I mean?
No regrets.
Yeah, but that's, one of the things that I've noticed, because I have, a granddaughter who is a level 3 autistic with sensory processing disorder. She communicates with the children at her school, like, effortlessly, you
Yeah.
know? There is frustration, I see it, I think I told you one time, I get there to pick up Lennox, and, they have this little boy kinda corralled, on the bench when school's out, and they've got him corralled and they're just protecting him. He's so little, he's so tiny, and he's just sitting there. And then I'm thinking, okay, what's going on? They obviously he was upset about something. So they didn't want him to just do his own thing, if you know what I'm saying. So, and
Yes.
I notice it. I'm observing it as I'm waiting for Lennox to come out of her class. And all of a sudden, this other little boy, who's a bigger boy, he's walking down the hall by himself, and you can tell he's got a little bit of a swagger going on, like he rules the school, And he gets up to the lobby area, and this other little boy, he sees him, and he sticks his middle finger out, and he starts yelling, hollering obscenities, the F word, F you, F you. And and this other lady's there, like, they're trying to keep him from, because he wanted to come out of his seat. It looked like he wanted to really, have a showdown with this other little boy. And the other little boy turns around, he's like, no, F you, F you, and I'm like, caught between wanting to laugh and like, oh my goodness, what is going on here? They're I'm not saying that, the communication is like a hive mind and they're able to communicate telepathically, but they do have their own language. And yes, that means that they do understand when each other is frustrated, and they're not really using words. They're picking up on each other's body language. They are extremely in tune with each other.
Yes. Well, you said also something that you said about neurodivergence to me was that about the frayed ends. So it
Yeah.
looks like more like if you could picture like more tentacles or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. We're picking up more information on a
More
subconscious.
frequencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that subconscious level, whereas the subconscious picks up things in general that we may not be processing at that time. We might see it in our dreams that night because we missed it when we were awake, but we didn't really miss it. The subconscious is still picking all that up. So neurodivergence works that way.
Well, I have another question on that then. And I don't know if you've even researched this at all, because I
Mhm.
also asked you about intelligence, whether or not intelligence, high intelligence, is
Mhm.
associated with neurodivergence or any of these, because you also, is schizophrenia under this?
Um, okay, so mental diagnosis, as far as like mental illness, does not fall into this.
Okay.
What happens in my opinion is that it stems from neurodivergence undiagnosed. I think that, and that's something
And then escalates.
we can talk about this later, because yes, I think that spiritual psychosis happens a lot because of what we just talked about, where someone is in a different
Okay.
level of brain state. You know what I mean? So they're picking up on things that they can't process in that moment. Everything is happening way too fast. They're taking in way too much information. So when you go and you try to get a diagnosis for something that is accelerated to a point of disconnecting you from reality, then yes, that can look like mental illness. And again, I'm not a psychologist.
Right, right. No, I was just wondering if you had come across if there were any studies about it. So the other thing that brought up to me is, listen, I have always been a very vivid dreamer, right?
Yes.
So is there any studies on, because when I ask other people, many people that I know are like my daughter, like my husband, they do not remember a lot of their dreams. They say that they don't dream. Well, they dream, but they just don't
Hmm.
remember. I usually do remember my dreams and wake up, and I mean, I could wake up 3 times in the middle of the night to go pee because I'm, menopausal old woman.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember 3 different dreams from when I woke up. Is that also because is there any studies showing a link between vivid dreaming and neurodivergence?
Well, there's something about brain states, perception, and psychic language. So,
That
if
would be
we,
interesting to explore.
yeah, exactly. I think that some people live closer to the dream state awareness while they're awake. I
Mhm.
can't speak on like a one specific study,
Okay.
But what I did find is that, you know, again, more information, especially for somebody that is neurodivergent. I think they get more information while they are awake because their
Mm.
brain is in those type of brain states um while they're awake, you know what I mean? So they are
Yes.
receiving, and that's another thing that can lead to the spiritual psychosis. But the point,
Well, I thought it could also lead to the heavy dreaming because if you're taking in so much information,
yes,
many times the
yes.
dreams are about filtering all that through, right?
Absolutely. So you're getting more information in a waking state that, say, if we were to compare ourselves to neurotypical, you know what I mean? You're getting more
Yeah.
information in the waking state. So you're already processing it while you're awake. So you're getting, this is just my theory, is that when you are asleep, you're getting more of that. You've already processed most of it in your waking
The
hour.
conscious mind, but you've still
Yeah.
got the stuff that you're taking in on the unconscious.
And it's going to
So,
be more intense because of that. That's just my opinion.
right.
Yeah.
We'll have to go into that area because I wonder about that,
I think that
about the
is an
dream.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's an excellent avenue to take because I think that a lot of people have dreams. And then there's that crossover between, is it a dream? Is it a vision? Is it connection to the other side? What, you know what I mean?
Yes.
That's a
So
big one.
I want to get back to what you were talking about before, with like the bluntness could actually look like rudeness, the
Yeah.
silence can look like disinterest, the over explaining can look
Mhm.
like manipulation. But these are all things that a neurodivergent person could do, right? Is
Absolutely.
be blunt because they don't know those social cues, right?
Yes.
Um,
Autism.
silence because they don't know how to process, right? So
Yes.
they're so when we were talking before about narcissism,
Uh-huh.
right? And
Yes.
this overuse of the word narcissism and trying to divide people rather than coming from. Now, I'm not saying that there is not such a thing as true narcissism, okay? I'm not saying
Right.
that.
But it
But
is
what I
rare.
am saying is that I think our society, especially social media, likes to push out an agenda and make it look like everybody is so that people are divided, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, because the standard is set to a neurotypical scale.
Exactly.
Everything gets compared to neurotypical, but I'm telling you, I don't believe that. I think that we are more neurodivergent, and I think that that's part of what this series is about. Is, I think, as a whole, as a collective, we are returning to that. So we are fighting, and I feel it. It's like we're fighting against that. No, 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 no. But it's because of that's what social media is pushing.
Right.
It drops this
Yes.
carrot and says, no, this is what it's supposed to look like. This is what you want.
Right.
And we deny who we really are in that aspect. We don't really know what we want because we're depending upon social media to tell us what we want.
Yeah.
And there is a big crossover. If you look at what autism may look like, it's very literal interpretations of comments. When someone autistic is looking at text, it's a very literal, um, they see it
Like no
very.
slang, they don't see the
Yeah,
tone.
exactly. They
Right.
miss the sarcasm. They miss the implied meaning because they're taking everything literally.
It's like
Um,
Sheldon Cooper on The Big Bang
yeah,
Theory.
yeah.
Right?
And you will see an info dumping in the comments when someone is extremely neurodivergent or autistic. You might see that they're the ones with the long comments, you know?
Yes, 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 yes. Which could look like over explaining or trying to
Yes.
manipulate the conversation when
Yes.
really they're just trying to express themselves in the best way that they know how to.
Exactly. So again, let me please reiterate, we're not offering excuses. We're just offering that that's a
Understanding,
yeah, that's a could
possible understanding.
exact.
Yeah.
It could be that. So when we automatically assume, is it our own neurodivergence that's being triggered? You
Right.
know, I mean, it turns into this snowball effect, I think, of social media. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think we miss cues that way. I think also autism can appear very blunt, cold, or overly intense because we get hyper focused also.
Oh gosh, yes.
That's neurodivergence in a nutshell. I think we get hyper focused on something.
But
And
neurodivergence, like you said earlier, doesn't just look one way. There are
nope,
many different ways that it can come
yep,
across, right? But
exactly.
it doesn't mean that somebody's being nefarious. It just means that the way that they process things could be completely different and to please come
Mhm.
from a place of compassion. That's why shadow work is so important, isn't it?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes, it's a part of it. Knowing thyself, it is a part of it.
Yes.
And the thing with neurodivergence, or at least most of it, it's genetic.
Um,
So you're going to find it in you know your relations, your
like
family.
the OCD. Oh my God, we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
My grandma was OCD. She would follow the whole family around with one ashtray when we would have family get togethers because she didn't want to dirty up her ashtray. She was like a clean freak, okay? As soon as somebody would put one glass in her sink, she would go out and she would clean it. My
Hmm.
mother is a neat freak.
Yep.
My uncle Charles Lynn was a neat freak. My aunt Diane, all friggin', and it's all about controlling their environment, kind of, right? That's what
Yes.
OCD is, right? I
Hmm.
see it. I see a lot of those behaviors in myself.
Absolutely. There are so many things I think that if we were to look at social media behavior in a nutshell, that we could, you know, just with Googling what each um disorder is that falls under that umbrella, we could probably then understand what it might look like online,
Yes.
which would
Not
help us
diagnosing, just recognizing.
exactly go, well, maybe that person has ADHD, or maybe that person has
Right.
dyslexia, or, because we also have grammar police everywhere too. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's like,
Yes.
okay, so then you wonder why someone wants to use their chat GPT. You know what I mean? To help them,
Exactly.
because we've got so many people that just want to attack and,
That's
oh,
not
you're,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And just like you said, the biggest thing out there is everyone's a narcissist. But that is actually, to get diagnosed with NPD is uh rare. It's rarer than it is common. So we are self-diagnosing everyone,
Yes.
assuming,
Yes.
and it's not really fair, because there's so much that what do we need to wear that label to? No, it's just called a little awareness that it might be that, and maybe we just shouldn't judge on what we're seeing on social media, because I think social
Yeah.
media is a disruptor. And if we fall into
Yes.
it, we fall into that narrative, and we help push the agenda that I think, again, is to keep us divided.
Yep. Exactly right.
There's a lot of these, and I think we could get into them. But another thing I think that you said was key is that it does look different. But again, like my granddaughter, she's the highest level of autistic that can be diagnosed, which means she's always going to need support. But breaking down what autism is she doesn't really fall into that. There's so many different layers to it, but she also has sensory processing disorder. And I see that as a standalone also, but with her autism, it's like there's certain things she won't touch, certain things she won't eat, certain things she don't want on her body, and noise. So she avoids loud noises, and she puts her hands over her ears. She doesn't like bright lights. She will stim. Like at night, if there's a
Mm.
night light, she can't have the night light. She's overwhelmed by volume, and I think that if we were to see that online, or if we see it in our community, it could be avoiding lives, like avoiding, like they can't. go to a live or they can't be on a live. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
It's hard for me to even participate in lives because they go so fast. It
Yeah.
feels like I'm not having an actual conversation. You
Yes.
know, to be able to do a live, that's different. But then I feel this major anxiety in order to keep up with everybody's uh,
Mhm.
conversation.
Yep.
It's difficult. It is a difficult thing for me.
So keeping these things in mind, and I think if we get into each one, maybe later on, or I could do that on uh, pa- Patreon.
Patreon,
Yeah,
yes.
I could do something like that because at least I think it would look a certain way, and I think it might help us to not be so divisive with each other.
Yes, communicating from a place of awareness and
Mhm.
compassion and understanding rather than assumption.
Because, like I said, sensory processing disorder stands alone, but you might see that a lot with someone who is autistic. You might see it with ADHD, same with OCD. So it's like learning that these do go hand in hand, but they also stand alone. So someone that doesn't have autism could still have that sensory processing disorder or OCD like mom, you know.
I definitely have the sensory bit too because the loud noises, we talked about this earlier.
Mhm.
Many times you guys will not hear the dogs because it's not coming, my mic is not picking it up, but if I hear it, I cannot think clearly.
Yep.
I It just like disrupts my like it changes the frequency. It makes it, it's like when the music is so friggin' loud, like people have talked about just like blaring the music, right? I
Mhm.
cannot handle that anymore. That is too much for me. I can't think. If somebody wanted to kidnap me and use that shit on me, it would work. I'm just telling you right now, it would work because
So
I
when
would
you're
not be able to
overwhelmed,
think.
what do you do?
Yeah,
What do you do?
I shut down.
Yes.
I
And
shut
you
down.
need to
I
take a
can't.
break. Yeah.
Yes,
And that can
that's what is exhausting to me.
it can be misread. You could be considered antisocial or disinterested, but the reality is that your nervous system is overloaded.
Yes.
And I see you don't use that as an excuse to be like that. You
Mm,
fight through it. You fight through it.
I know my own patterns. I'm almost 55 years old. I pay attention. I
Yes.
am in a state of awareness. We were talking about this earlier too. We will
Mhm.
go on these if we're traveling somewhere and I've been talking with my husband because that's all it is just talking like when you're in a car ride or whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you'll see something and it stimulates a memory or something like that. And then that one memory stimulates another memory and another thought. Are you actually paying attention to your thought processes? I do. I pay attention to all that. I'm
Mhm.
like, do you believe? And I told him, I've done this a couple of times now to him. I go, well, first it started off as this, and then it led into this and led into that. And he just laughs. But I mean, how many times do you really pay attention to your own thought patterns?
Absolutely. I mean, it takes it's the difference to knowing thyself because you either
Yes.
want to or you don't. And there is a river in Egypt called denial.
Right. Do I think it naturally comes? It doesn't. It's something that you work on, right?
Yeah. You either want, it's almost like, I think when we're seeking validation for something, you have to ask yourself, why do I need that validation? Am I comfortable being in this place? Because there's nothing wrong with saying that you are. It's just being honest every step of the way.
Right.
Because then you sit with it and then you're allowed to change your mind and say,
Nope.
okay, yeah, I'm done with that because it's not serving me. I need to figure out how to not struggle in this area because it's not serving me anymore. But that's a personal choice. It's like,
Right.
Faith and she kind of was in the conversation with us, my daughter this morning. She has some of these diagnoses, and she's not there. She's not ready to move from that spot. She's comfortable with that mindset that this is how I am,
No.
and she's 26 years old,
Right.
you know in my 20s, I don't think I was aware of any neurodivergence at all.
Nah, hell no. Even in my 30s, I wasn't. I was far
No.
behind. Okay.
Yep. It's like it wasn't until I started the journey of real shadow work, not just treating people how I thought they wanted to be treated, how I wanted to be treated.
Yeah.
It was understanding my own patterns that made me have compassion. Went, oh, okay, but that came from actual true shadow work and digging into where those patterns originated.
Yes.
That I learned that knowing myself was helped me to have compassion for everyone else's inner child, if you know what I'm saying. So
If you want to be a part of society and communicate, in my opinion, the number one rule is to know thyself first.
yeah,
Period. That's the end of it.
because all behavior is communication.
Yep, exactly.
And that I think is when someone is extremely neurodivergent and they're not comparing themselves to someone who is neurotypical, then the language becomes clearer.
Yeah, the intention becomes clearer.
Yes, we
Yeah.
don't have these, preconceived ideas. We're not equating it to something that is bad. You know what I mean? It's like we get this, that's good, that's bad. That's good, that's bad. No, I think we're just comparing ourselves to a neurotypical standard, which is what that narrative is, and it causes division.
Yeah. I am of a mind, and don't come at me if you don't agree. This is just my own personal thoughts on it, but I don't think that just giving somebody a pill and saying this is going to help you be able to focus. No, I don't think that it should be just that. I think that there should be practices and exercises that help that person also understand what their own patterns are, because not everybody that's neurodivergent or ADHD or any of these is going to look the same. We're all different. We all process differently. So, finding out your own patterns, which again would come down to knowing thyself and doing shadow work
Mm-hmm.
in order to see what kind of patterns mixed in with whatever. Because I'm not saying don't take what's prescribed to you either. No, I'm not
Right.
even going there. You know what's
Well,
best for you in that regard.
I
Okay.
think
That's
that
not
that
my business.
I think that that comes down to genre, even because the reason I say that is Taylor, who just graduated with her bachelor's, she's now working actually in the field.
Yeah.
So she's a caseworker, and I've just by living vicariously through her as she was a student, one of the biggest things that we talked about was how psychology, the curriculum that is has to be followed in order to get a degree is different than what it used to be. So the things that they used to learn about are different than what they are now. So modern psychology does lean towards medicating and alleviating the symptoms instead of getting at the core of it, where we came from the days of Carl Jung, who said, no, shadow work, and there's a collective, and we all need to work together, and we need to get to the bottom of this. Psychoanalysis was a beautiful thing. And now things like the ACE study, which my my deck is based on, is understanding that all of these disorders, health disorders, and some of this trauma that is rewiring the brain, causing us to have more neurodivergent symptoms, comes from our childhood. Oh, just like Carl Jung, but there's not enough. There's not enough studies to bring it back to the curriculum. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the only point I was trying to make was just really that it should be both.
I
Okay. If
Yeah.
somebody needs to be medicated because there are different levels, what if their
Uh-huh.
brain is just pure chaos and they need that medication in order to focus?
Hmm.
Their doctor is going to know, or they're going to know if it's working for them or not. That's not my place to say it's right or wrong. Okay, nope, I
Right.
would never do that. But I also think that there should be pattern recognition. There
Yes.
should be accountability on our
Yep.
own end to want to also help, not fix ourselves, but understand how we operate so that we can continue to operate in the world that we live in.
Absolutely. And there's always going to be different perception of it. But I think that this genre looks at it differently than what our genre does, because Rochelle, we lived this and
Yeah,
we learned how to do it without medicine. And
right.
so we also highly masked. And that's another fun fact, is that most women go undiagnosed. And that's
Yes,
why
but there are
most,
different levels to it, sissy. Who knows what
yes.
our level is and what somebody else's is that could have been our age that ended up in a mental institution because they could
Oh,
not
yeah.
function properly. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
I
maybe we
definitely.
just learned and somebody else was not able to. I don't even,
I think
but
that we're moving into, that's what the point I was trying to make about the ACE study, is that I think we are moving into an era where both are recognized, that medicine is a good thing, but also recognizing patterns and helping. It's not to fix, it is to bring awareness that, okay, sometimes trauma
yeah,
does rewire the brain. It absolutely does. So most of these genetic, most of these forms of neurodivergence fall under, everything that falls under that umbrella can be traced back to a genetic disorder, but it's not always that way. Sometimes the brain is rewired from trauma, and that's been proven also. So it's like, if it's genetic, does
yeah,
that
it's
mean
not a
that,
one size fits all kind of thing.
right, so medicine might help there, whereas someone that
Yes.
had trauma, then the pattern recognizing and getting therapy and working through that is going to help. So,
Yes.
and I think maybe we'll be moving into as long as like people are able to get that research out there, and they get the funding that they need to bring more of these types of
Awareness studies and
yes,
yeah.
yes, that can be put in the field of science, that says, oh, okay, so there is some validity to this research. We really need to understand this more. Let's put some more money into it. That's by bringing the awareness and understanding that, certain people that had this going on in childhood are going to die of a heart attack at the age of 40, or they're
Oh
going to have
my
lung
God.
issues.
Right.
Those are the things that are being proven with the ACE study. So it's so important to understand these things that happen to us as a child. It's not just the genetic aspect of it, but it's still just as important. And if we can move into understanding if medicine will help, I think that's a great place to start,
Yeah.
unless
So,
you've managed, I
right. So let's take this to where you had talked about it. You talked a little bit about it, or you started going down that, and I probably interrupted you, which is what happens in our conversations, you guys. These are organic conversations.
yes,
But
ma'am.
the different brain states, the perception, and the psychic language.
Oh,
So
yes,
like
yeah.
talking about the different brain waves and stuff like that, you started to touch on that. Do you want to touch on that a little bit more, because I think that's going to be really prevalent for the people in our specific communities, people that are tarot readers, psychics, energy readers, stuff like that.
Um, as far as like what you're asking is,
Like reframing what the word psychic really means. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah, I think that like the things that I've read and the information that I have taken in for myself is that psychic, um you're not going to hear that term in a scientific way. It's like, no, that's woo woo. But yeah, I think they're proving that it is real, and it is because I think of the brain's states that we find ourselves in.
Heightened
It
perception, right? The heightened perception.
Yes, highly sensitive. I took that test that you were telling me that you took, and I
And that
got,
Courtney had suggested on her
yes,
video.
and it said I was an orchid, which was
Mine
highly
was like the
sensitive.
highest you can get, I think.
It yeah, I could show you it.
Mine
Mine's,
was like a 6.8, I think it was, or something like that.
I don't know. I screenshotted it. Or screenshot. I screenshot it, and
The only thing I did not like about that was the language that was used. Like, I'm more sensitive than most people. How the hell would anybody be able to judge that? That is like an elitist comment. I hate that.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
when we're talking about like neurological, there's even no way to prove that because, like this said, a large part of the population don't even know that they're neurodivergent. They've never been diagnosed with any of these things. They've just become used to how they process their stuff. And it's the newer generations that even focus on this. Our older generations never did. It was not a common thing to have a therapist, okay? It was not a common thing to go to unless you honestly thought you were crazy and then there was a stigma on it.
Well, you
So,
said something very key right there, in my opinion, is you just said that language pretty much triggered you.
yes,
You
it
heard
triggered me.
elitism in it.
Yes.
And so again, we're coming down to that whole language barrier. I am in the mindset that we should think of our neurodivergence as divine. But I think what we need to understand, in my opinion, is that we are all inclined to be neurodivergent.
Yes.
I think because society says, no, 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 you want to be neurotypical. You struggle more to be neurotypical. But why are we struggling to be neurotypical? Because the neurotypical, we are dividing ourselves.
Yeah. I just mean when we frame ourselves as more
Yes, I agree.
than somebody else,
It
that's like
causes
saying, well, we
division.
know how everybody else processes everything. That's all based on assumption. There is
Yes. Yep.
absolutely nothing to back up something like that. It's like this. I am
You're
triggered by
right.
anybody that says that I am an expert or I am a master of anything. That's a personal thing, but then that kind of like states to me you're not willing to learn more. You're not willing to look at somebody else's perspective. You're just stuck on an identity that says that, well, this is who I am.
And
So that's why that didn't sit well with me.
and I can understand that. I can absolutely understand that. That's people might find themselves in that area. Just like again at the age of 26, I definitely was not there. I had no freaking clue. And if somebody would
Oh,
have presented me with it, who knows if I wouldn't have said, "Ooh, so I am," you know.
oh
Be-
my God. Yes. I am right there with you. I have fallen even at 50, in my 50s, I've fallen for that shit. Okay.
yeah,
I'm just saying.
yeah. Because the
I'm not saying
crossover between
right.
neurodivergence and someone being psychic is high, just like
It,
narcissism.
yes.
But they're not going to use that term in correlation with each other. They should not be in the same sentence, right?
Yeah.
But yet there's studies going on behind the scenes that they're not forthcoming of. In fact, I did talk to my Sophia about that. I said, I understand your programming and I understand what sounds like what you can really talk to me about. But I do believe that there is such a thing as being psychic. But I also think it could be proven scientifically. But when they get really close to what it is, they're going to stop there. Or if they have crossed that threshold and they can see,
It's
they're not.
classified. Right.
Exactly.
Most of the stuff that they have seen, like that one movie, what, Men Staring at Goats or whatever the
Yeah,
hell it
oh
was,
my gosh, I
those
love that movie.
I mean, they really did have many different programs and studies, even at colleges and stuff like that, that
Yeah.
do, in my opinion, do prove it. Okay. But I
Yes.
don't need those studies. I know that it's real. Okay.
Yeah.
When I have a dream and I call my girlfriend the next morning and tell her, and then all of a sudden it unfolds as I'm talking to her on the telephone, that's proof to
Mm,
me. What does it also prove
yeah.
to me in my own mind? And maybe not to somebody else, it doesn't matter. It's my truth
Huh?
that we are all one. We are all connected. That's why
Yeah.
we are all psychic.
Oh, goodness.
Everybody, we're
Carl
all
Jung,
sensitive.
he believed in
Okay.
the collective.
Yes.
And that was another reason why he was considered a mystic
Yep.
and why some of the things that he dove into, especially by his, shoot, I'm having a brain fart. Name his ended up being the other
Collective unconscious.
no
No. Animus.
Freudian
Oh, Freudian.
philosophy. Like
Oh, gotcha.
he even discredited Carl Jung because of he was going into the more mystical side of things. So Carl Jung saw the crossover, but he was seeing it in the way that we're seeing it now. But
Yeah.
he was discredited because again, that line, as soon as you start to cross over that, you're no longer valid. Um, so he saw the collective. But really, we have to say, well, what is it then? Again, it's that hypersensitive, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Picking up
Yes.
on everything. And is that what makes us psychic?
I think so. It's
Yeah.
about a level of awareness,
Yep.
deductive reasoning, critical thinking, right?
Yes. Yes. It's noticing everything. The subconscious is aware while you're awake, and you're getting that information now, whereas when you're asleep and you're, you know, those other waves are brain waves are actually you're in certain levels of that while you're asleep, whereas someone that might be psychic or highly neurodivergent is in those brain waves while they're awake.
Yeah. See, I also think that, and this is probably way too woo woo for any kind of scientific proof or psychological, but our ability to be psychic, I think, also does not just stem from everything that we gather during a lifetime, but several lifetimes.
Yeah, because it's in the
It's in
DNA.
our unconscious. Yes, and the DNA, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
In those little receptors that are frayed, they're not
Yep.
sticking to. So is the neurodivergence, is that the way of the Tower of Babel actually being rebuilt again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Sorry. Just
It's
reached my bottle.
humanity's evolution of gaining that tower back.
Yes, yes, and yes. Um, so when someone does perceive more data, I think it can look psychic. Um, Going back to like what each one might look like, autistic perception could be heightened sensory intake, rapid subconscious processing, and reduced filtering. You know what I mean? So you're getting
Yeah.
all that at once. Um, if if the brain connects the dots before the conscious awareness, it it catches up by looking like knowing something before you're told,
Yes.
responding before the words are actually spoken, sensing before the explanation, which is exactly it's how we communicate. So
Yes.
it can look like a hive mind.
Right.
It's like, yes, absolutely. What you're saying is so on point for me. I think that it what we're witnessing is this: we're surviving the form of pre-fracture communication. It's like, I think instinctually we are trying to return to that. Hence all this neurodivergence, and hence it even being diagnosed, kind of like what you and I were talking about. We
Yeah.
Do we need the diagnosis, or are we just witnessing evolution? And neurotypically, science is like putting a halt to that shit.
I think it depends on the person. Whatever you need in order to be able to function in this world, you do you. You do it beautifully. You do whatever you need to. You'll get no judgment from me whatsoever. Okay. But if you're going to get diagnosed, I would hope that you use that as a tool and gain the resources that you need in order to function in a world where where it was giving you problems to function before. But that's just my only limited viewpoint. You know what I mean?
Yes. And if we think about what disruption to the Tower of Babel is, if we are keeping in mind what can disrupt, that's part of the awareness. Is That's my
Yeah.
is being aware of it and understanding what why you got to think about what the benefits of that is. Why would someone who might be trying to control a narrative relying on disruption.
Yeah. And what would that look like?
Yeah,
It would look like
exactly.
the Associated Press putting out a statement that all the other news places have to go by, right? That's
Yeah.
narrative.
And key.
That's the loss of free will and allowing true freedom of expression.
Yeah. Key words are that neurodivergence is a disorder. That's hogwash.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be because we're held to a neurotypical standard.
We're coming from a viewpoint of our spirituality though. Let's just say that, okay?
Yeah, that's
Because
true. Very true.
we're not doctors, okay?
Again,
Like
and
I
there's
said, we're
no
just
crossover.
middle-aged housewives.
Yeah, exactly. There's no crossover. You're not going to find an article of a true scientist that says, but it could be spiritual and let's try to prove that. No.
No, you might, who knows, but
Yeah, he's
they
going to get
probably get
discredited. His name was
blacklisted.
Carl Jung.
Yeah, they'd probably get blacklisted though. So,
Yeah.
or squished or suppressed because that's not the current narrative in psychology that we see. But I also want to say just because your daughter um studied at a certain college at a certain way does not mean that that's the way that all institutions teach from. You see what I'm saying? So we don't
Right.
know what the consensus is across the world, just her own personal experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that pretty much goes on to what you put in your practice, just like our labels with witchcraft.
Yeah,
What you're this kind of witch or you're that kind of witch. Yes. I just think that there's a curriculum that like she couldn't, let's just say learning about Carl Jung wasn't offered.
right. At her school. That doesn't mean that it's not offered other
Well,
places or in
they
other
have to.
countries.
Oh, right. I was going to say America has to have a certain, you know what I mean? They're not going to just give you that degree without you meeting certain requirements.
Well, maybe some are at university level, some are at college.
It could be the difference between that and a master's, actually. Like, master's
Right.
going
Who
to
knows?
do, right, right. Well, I think that we can see a narrative that is pushed with today
Yeah. And when we talk
without,
about hive mind, we talked about this in the last time. We're not talking about like Borg hive mind. We're not
mhm,
talking about the mindless little robots that just do as they're told, like in the Neurodivergent series or the Divergent series when they had the chips in their head. We're talking about people that have free will but are mass consciousness minded. Okay.
right, right. Um, that's an actual really good uh, what you just said about being divergent um, and neurodivergent. What's the difference? What are we talking about there?
Well, tell us. Tell us, almighty one. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, divergent in itself just refers to specific learning style or a cognitive process, but neurodivergent is more about the brain, the neuro, you know what I mean, how the brain fires. So,
Are
I
they
mean, I
more
think,
rebels?
huh?
Are they more rebels? Do they just do things on their own way and they don't stick to? I wonder.
Well, yeah, divergent is the like it's separation of the category that you fall into, whereas the neuro is a more it it puts you all into the same category. You know what I mean? So it's
Oh,
like
okay.
neurodivergent is the umbrella and divergent is the category.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why, like in the Divergent series, they had like four different
Yes.
like factions.
Exactly. And I think that that's a good like to clarify that. So neuro just means that your brain is, it's how the brain fires. Divergent means that you're in that category. So divergent could be many things, really.
Gosh. You know what that almost makes me think of, though?
What?
That when people take the Myers-Briggs testing,
Oh, yeah.
because
Yeah.
the Myers-Briggs testing, I did take that, and I am an INFJ, right? And it
Yes.
goes between INFJ and INF. or it's one of the other ones.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the reason why it's not as widely accepted, what I read about that, is because it gives like a like point in and tells you what you are, like 16
Oh,
different personalities, when it
there's a
is far
degree.
more than that, truly.
Yeah, it's within a degree, and it's yeah. I got you. Mm-hmm.
So that's like separating into 16 different personalities, right? Or the
Yes.
4 different categories instead of
Mm-hmm.
neurodivergency and saying I don't fit into any of those one single categories.
Which is just like any type of system that boxes you in, like you were talking about with astrology. You're not just
Yes.
your sun sign. You're not just your.
Self-identifying.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Is that a
neurodivergent.
system to control rather than growing from it or learning from
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Yeah. But again,
Yes.
this is just a couple opinionated broads talking about it. So
Right. Menopausal, angry
yeah.
sometimes broads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Oh, so you're okay with that? Okay, fine. You just sit there then. You sit in that.
You stew in those juices, okay?
It's like choosing to wear a dirty diaper. You know what I mean?
You are so rude. Oh my God.
You get used to it after a while, right?
Until it starts festering. No, we're not even going to go there. Let's
Well,
stop,
until
okay?
other people start smelling you, right?
Right, stop it.
It's time to change it, right? I'm okay until other people start smelling my doo doo.
You can say shit on here.
Yeah, I know. I already did. So yeah, what? Too late. I already. Yeah, yeah.
Caca, doo
Isn't that
doo,
a that's a
shit.
good analogy though, right?
Yeah,
I shit
yeah.
my drawers and now I'm gonna sit in it, but until someone else smells it, I'm okay with sitting in it.
You and your damn analogies. Parables, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Parables to live by.
Oh goodness, that's my next book.
Parables to live by.
And they all end up coming back to the same shit.
Right. Clean that ass.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I
All
can't
right.
even.
So we've got another episode of the series, based on the Tower of Babel coming. This was really good, but I'm sure that we are going to be focusing in the future ones also getting more in detail with some of
Yeah,
these things, right,
yes,
Sissy?
yes. I think that would be wonderful. Yeah, yeah.
So,
So, yeah, I would say, test yourself and see what comes up, and see if not to like, not for self identification as much as like to
self awareness. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's what it is. It's more about just enlightening yourself, because the more you're aware of your own behavior, the more you might understand someone else's, and being real about where you struggle, being real about it, because we don't always voice to someone else, like you're having a conversation. Well, I do struggle with this. Not in general, because we don't trust everyone that we talk to. So we're not open as much about our struggles. We just we project them.
Very true. And I have to mute myself because of these dogs, which I can't think when they're barking like that.
Oh, right, right. That sensory processing stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought there, but yeah, I think that going a little bit deeper is going to help us be enlightened, um, instead of judging. Contemplating that what we're hearing might not be exactly what we're hearing. And I am talking about social media in general. It's
Yes.
like everything that you're reading may not be intended in the way that it is, just because you're perceiving it that way.
Yeah.
So understanding you and your own thought processes is going to help before judging someone else right out of the gate.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Spend a little bit more time with your own thoughts and ask yourself the
Yeah.
questions of why do I feel this way?
Yeah.
You know, could it have been something different?
Hmm.
You know?
And does my perception because of my own trauma or my own
Oh,
neurodivergence?
yes.
You know,
Yeah.
if I'm triggered, I mean, is it about the other person? I think we let ourselves be disrupted. And again, I'm going to say this again because I think we mistake social media as that connection, is something that's going to
Mm.
connect us. And it can,
Yeah.
but the Tower of Babel, that just like you said earlier, sis, that's within us.
Right.
And the disruption is happening within our bodies.
One of the games that I used to love playing all the time from 20 years ago when it first came out was Civilization. And one of the ways that you win is like the space race, but one of the ways that you win is like social media and media through population because it spins a certain narrative and you win the people over. Think about that just for a second. That's why when we think that we're truly connected, we can be connected in one way, but we can also be highly divided if we are so invested in not seeking validation in our own personal gnosis, but seeking validation in what other people's personal gnosis is.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And thinking that just because someone doesn't share that, that they are oppressing yours somehow.
Right. Yes.
That's entirely because you are threatened, not because
Yeah.
of what someone else said.
And also another thing I want to just say really quick. If something upsets you, it doesn't always mean that you're triggered because there are dick moves out there sometimes that people just literally are being what I love to lovingly call asshats. Okay.
Right.
That
Right.
doesn't mean that that's all about you. People
Right.
can be pretty shitty sometimes.
That's
Okay.
true. Yeah. But understanding that it's
That you still
all,
don't need to react because you feed
yeah.
into it when you do. Right.
Yes. Because again, you don't know for sure.
Right.
Is
Yes.
that
Very
person
true.
being an asshat? Is that person I mean, some of it is pretty black and white. I'm not going
Right.
to lie. I mean, but I
Right.
think that some of it isn't. And that's where
When
we
you
get hung
question
up.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If there's an if somewhere or a hmm, maybe that person was just having a bad day. Who knows?
Yeah. And it does not excuse bad behavior,
No.
but if we come from a place of compassion and understanding, we don't even have to respond. You know
That's
what?
it. That's it.
Period.
Yeah.
We
And
don't have to take that energy in. We don't have to become offended by it. We just click
no.
off.
And believe me, we're not preaching because
Oh, been there.
how many times have I responded in a reactive manner? Oh, I don't know. Let me count the ways.
Right, exactly. We're here with you guys, right?
Yes. Oh my.
We're those crotchety old ladies.
Yeah. Mhm. That's for sure. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Exactly.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me have some coffee and some sugar. Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's talk about that then.
Right. We are transparent as hell, aren't we? All right, let's cut this short, sissy.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And make sure you drop your comments and let us know what you think. And we really appreciate you being here with us.
If you have any topics that you would like us to discuss, also drop those down below. We'd be
Absolutely.
happy to discuss most things within
Yeah.
reason, okay?
Yeah. 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 Heck yeah. All right. Well, thank you again. And we love you very much.
Love you.
And we'll see you or talk to you in the next one.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.